Alright guys, welcome to video 15. This will be our discussion on absolute positioning. So, the last video was on float positioning, and we saw the hazards you can have with floating objects. If you didn't understand some of the floating stuff, we are going to use it for our navigation when I go to do my layout, so we'll cover floats again, so no worries there. But I'm going to move on here to absolute positioning. I made some changes here to our sample file. I kept this aqua box from before, except I got rid of the content and replaced it with this logo here. I've also added some margin up here on the top because I want to move the logo outside of its green container parent, and I want to move it up here in the left-hand corner. So I just kind of created some space there. So that's going to be the objective for this example. So the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to find that aqua box and border and get rid of it. I only left it in to show you that even though you can't see a background or a border, it doesn't mean that there isn't a box there. Okay, and remember, every element is seen as a box through CSS. So I'm going to refresh this page here and get rid of that, but that box still exists, you just can't see it. Okay, so just something to remember, just in general. Okay, so I need to move that logo, and we're going to learn a new property here, and it's called the position property, and we're going to give it a value of absolute. Okay, now what this does is it takes this this div, which we've named content, and it positions it absolutely. And what it means is it takes it out of the normal flow of the file. So this div here, even though we still have it in the exact same spot in the HTML, the browser thinks it's no longer there. Okay, so anything after it, in this case it would be our sidebar div right here, will fill in its space. Okay, we'll move up in the browser to fill the space that this leaves behind, because it's no longer in the normal flow of the document. So if I refresh this now, because this is now an absolutely positioned box, okay, the box below it has moved up and taken its place. It's now ignoring this logo, okay? And it would ignore any other element. If it was a UL or an LI or whatever element you had there, it would just ignore it, and it would bump up and take its place, okay? So what I need to do now is move this out of the way. Let's go back to my CSS. So whenever you position something absolutely, you probably want to give it some exact positioning, and we're going to go with top and left, okay? You can position from any of the four corners, so it could be bottom and right, or bottom and left, or top right. I'm going to go with top left just because it's the most common one you'll probably end up using, and we'll see what happens here, okay? So I'm going to give this some pixel positioning. In this case, you do want to measure in pixels. You can measure in other measurements, I guess, if you'd like, but this is going to be in an absolute position, so pixels is a good way to go. Or a safe way to go, I should say. So 80 pixels from the top and 200 pixels from the left. Okay, we'll see what happens here. And you're going to say, well, 80 pixels from the top of what, and 200 pixels from the left of what? So here's our 80 pixels to the top left corner of our box, and here's 200 pixels from the left corner of our box. And it's just measuring from the top corner of the browser. Okay, so it's exactly positioned from that top corner of the browser, which is fine. The problem is when I go to resize my browser window, it always stays 80 pixels from the top and 200 pixels from the left, and anything around it continues to move. Okay, so unless everything is absolutely positioned on your box, this is not the way you want to do it, and you probably don't want to position everything absolutely because that's a pain in the butt. So what absolute position does is when you set something to be in an absolute position, it measures it from the top corner of the browser or the body. Okay, so top left corner of the browser. In this case, it could be top right, or bottom left, or bottom right, unless one of its parents has a position. So here's how you fix it. We're going to give its green container box a position of relative. Okay, we haven't talked about relative positioning yet, but this is the way to fix it. Okay, this is basically like a little signal to the absolutely positioned item that says, hey, you can position yourself absolutely from my position. Okay, you don't have to give the container position any pixel values, just say position relative. So now it won't be based off the body, it'll be based off of the parent, And there you go, it's moved down. Because now it's basing it off of this corner, the top left corner of this green box. Okay, so it's now 80 pixels from the top of this and 200 pixels from there instead of from the top of the browser. Okay, so just change its position. The thing now is if I change the browser size, it's always going to be 200 pixels from this and 80 pixels from that corner instead of from the browser window. So that's how you fix that issue. Okay, so remember to, if you position something absolutely, tell its parent to be positioned relative, and it'll base its position off of that instead of the corner of the browser, whichever corner you happen to choose. Okay, so now I need to move this to where I actually want to move it. And one of the cool things about absolute positioning is you can give these negative values, and I'm just going to guess here at what negative values I need. We'll say negative 100 pixels here and negative 80 pixels from the top, and let's go see what happens. And it should be basing it off of this corner still, so I'm expecting it to move up, and I'm expecting it to move to the left. Okay, so top left corner of this, top left corner of the box of the logo. And we'll give it a second here for the video to catch up. And there we go. So now it's moved. Let me make this bigger. And it's broken out of the box. So one of the cool things about absolute positioning is you can think literally outside the box, right? Because you can now layer things on top of each other, and you can put them wherever you'd like. In this case, I'm going to just move it a little bit over because I didn't like exactly where it was. There we go. So now if I move this around, it sticks with the green box. It's kind of cool where it's positioned there. So if I were you guys, I would take something similar, any box you want, because this will work with any type of element, and I would try positioning it from other spots on the page. Okay, so in this case, I've done it from top left, but you can try bottom. Okay, and I'll change this to right, and we'll see what happens here. So there you go. Okay. And when you change the spots that you want to measure from, just remember it's, if you say bottom right, it's going to measure from the bottom right of its parent and the bottom right of the box you want to move, okay? So just be careful. And let's go back and move this back to where it was. So it's top left of the parent and top left of the box that I just moved, in this case, because I'm measuring from top left. And that's it as far as absolute positioning. Next we'll talk about relative positioning, and I'll go into the book after that.